you. I don't understand, but I'm gonna sit here anyway because I respect you. Oh, hi, guys. Welcome to Me Time, episode 32, at the beginning of this month's brand new theme, Societies versus Supers. Oh,
Interesting theme.
yeah, a very interesting theme that we're going to be jumping into. It's largely related to TV shows and movies where the protagonists or antagonists are not conventional superheroes. So we're going to be diving into things like The Boys and Invincible, where you've got your heroes, you've got your people with powers, or maybe people aspiring to be a superhero without powers, like your Batmans and that sort of stuff. But it's not quite as simple as that because the real world isn't as simple as that. So, hence the title Society versus Supers. Now, there's a fair few things other than The Boys and Invincible that myself and Elliot want to talk about this month.
Mhm.
So, you guys will find out what that's going to be with the episode titles because we don't necessarily know what the episode titles will be. We'll just roll with it and see where we get to.
It's all on the fly.
Yeah. This month will be a slightly shorter one in comparison to Movies with Meaning. Movies with Meaning was 4, and you'll find that out about the themes as we're going forward because that's why they're themes. They're not agendas. We're not sticking to an allotment of episodes fixed. We're just going with how many episodes we can churn out in a month. So at the end of the month, we will get to you another community spirit. That's also going to be slightly different. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. The first episode of Community Spirit is out now on YouTube and Spotify, episode 31. The wonderful John Thompson joining us for an hour and a half. But there's only 1 hour and 19 minutes of footage, just so you guys don't get overwhelmed with his awesomeness. So, highly recommend that you check that out now.
Thank you again, John.
Yeah, always a privilege, John. And if you ever want to come back and join us for another episode of Community Spirit in the future, the door is always open. Cool. So, I mean, let's start by diving into what we know, Elliot. Like, did you want to dive in first with The Boys? Because I have a guilty secret in the fact that I haven't seen it.
I can definitely give some context to the boys, I guess.
Yeah, I'll be interested as a audience member who hasn't really been convinced yet to watch it, if that makes sense.
Okay. I think so. It sort of opens up in, I think it's New York, and we're witness to Stewie. Stewie's sort of like a regular dude. Sort of working a sort of regular 9 to 5 job, and he is very much in the same regards as our universe now, where sort of superheroes are sort of out on sort of billboards and there's all usually marketing and sort of stuff. But the difference is they're sort of out and about doing sort of hero stuff um in the daily life. And Stewie gets brought into the boys' a crusade, I guess, when his girlfriend, they're out on a date, gets run over by a speedster.
I know about this.
Um, and I think what's different to what most media for sort of for most conventional superhero media is that it's a lot more graphic and it's a lot more grounded in regards to she doesn't just get run over, she kind of gets dissolved because he's going so fast in front of Stewie. Um, and there's a legal system around these superheroes where they're kind of protected from wrongdoing. So A Train kind of is caught up with Stewie's girlfriend's murder, basically, and uh, Stewie thinks the courts will kind of do what's required. He then finds out they don't, and that's when sort of Billy Butcher kind of comes in and says, "Oh, you want justice? I can get you justice, but you got to join us first." um, but Billy again is also not that kind of conventional hero, I guess. I mean, I don't think you could even call him a hero to a degree. It's the way he operates is way beyond hero. It's sort of, I would probably say, a heroic villain, which is really
So
twisted.
an anti-villain in a way.
Yeah. Um. So he lost his wife to a super. Oh no, he didn't. How he yeah. I'm trying to think now. Yes, he did. Um. And Homelander, who is like the big, uh, almost like Superman. Um. Is sort of the poster child of Superman to a degree, for the boys' universe. His wife is involved as Homelander, and then she disappears and gets murdered, and basically that's why Billy's now kind of on a warpath, for superheroes doing sort of bad things. Um, but because Billy's wife was taken out in the past, his moral compass is beyond normal. I'll probably say the way he deals with problems is way beyond the pale, even for a superhero society, I'd say. I mean, Homelander. So Homelander was sort of was brought up in a lab, so he didn't have conventional parents, and in doing so, he in the long term process, he didn't gain any empathy because he had no parents. So all his decisions, while on the surface look cool, it's a big marketing scheme to a degree, and I think the opening scene for Homelander is there's a plane crashing. And in fairness, his excuse for not doing the right thing is kind of valid when you think about it. But it's still he still doesn't really blink once it happens. But basically, a plane is crashing, and he can't save the people on the plane because he can't basically push up. There's nowhere to push for him, even though he can fly. There's nowhere to push, so he can't save this plane. So what he ends up doing is killing all the passengers early before they even hit the land, before they even hit the ground, and lets the plane crash.
What? This is, I mean, look, it's tough because on black and white, it's an interesting concept that I would be interested in. And so many people, yourself included, have turned around and said, just, oh, well, you can watch it, you got to give it a go. It's not your conventional superhero media.
Mm.
It's you've got these men and women in power because of the powers that they have been given or the powers that they have been born with.
Mm.
It sounds to me like they're used as weapons by
Yes.
politicians from someone who hasn't watched it. Did I nail that, guys? Have I nailed it? Is that it? Did I?
Almost. I would probably, so it's not so much politicians. I think it's more politicians in season 3, maybe.
Oh, I
They get more
see.
involved, but it's more corporate at the start. Um,
Oh, okay.
because it's basically a corporate company kind of puts together the Avengers, for lack of a better term. And I can't remember what it's called. I forgot the name of it now.
Vought?
That's it. That's it. Vought, yeah. The Vought Corporation, and then you find out that so they bought the facilities to sort of hold these Avengers level heroes, I guess. Some people, a lot of people aren't actually born with the powers that they're given. Vought has actually, in a long period of time, been um, putting chemicals into food and water and various other things, and this chemical basically makes people super. And sometimes they're watched like Homelander, and sometimes they're not, like Starlight or A Train, where I think they've just come in naturally. And Aqua Boy, I think, I can't remember his name. um, and then you've also got the guys who've got no powers at all, such as Billy Butcher and the rest of his crew. Um, and they kind of work to try and even the odds a bit when heroes go out of turn. And so Homelander being a sociopath, I think, is the right term. As much as he can save people, there's times where he chooses not to, and just travels kills them. It's easier. There's a really not so I don't know. It is funny, but it's not funny. I don't know. Where Homelander's been sent to talk someone out of suicide,
Right.
and rather than talking them out, because rather than talking them out of it, because he's got no empathy, he asks them to do it. What?
What?
Yeah. So I think I can't remember. So he's sent to a suicide prevention, and I think he'd had a previous um he'd come back from a previous incident. I can't remember what it was. Didn't go his way. So at this point, he's angry. He's got no empathy, and he goes to a suicide, someone who wants to jump, basically, and he tells them to do it. And the funny thing is, like, this suicide person goes, "Are you supposed to tell me I'm not supposed to jump? Like, this doesn't seem right." But because he's been taught no empathy, he doesn't compute it, and he's got so much power, it just doesn't doesn't make sense. And I think at the end of it, he actually pushes her off, even though she actually changes her mind at the end.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
She changes her mind and he pushes her.
I think that's still what happens.
I think if I can jump in here,
Mhm.
this is, to me, even the synopsis, a large example of why such media is interesting to follow, because it's trying to tell the audience that superheroes don't work in real life. They
Yeah, I don't know. I think yes and no.
if I continue with what I'm
Mm.
saying, because I see what you mean, not just anyone.
Mm.
Not just anyone can be a hero.
Mm.
If you take Marvel and DC, for example, and we said we won't talk about it, but let's just give a base example
Mm.
here. You've got your Tony Starks and your Steve Rogers that are just, well, Tony Stark is a bad man and Steve Rogers is a good man, but they're in a convenient situation and set of circumstances that let them use their skills to become a superhero. But if you then see their journey through the MCU to where it gets to Civil War, a clash of ideologies roots them against each other, but it's at the it happens because they they got in trouble because of being above the law, and they get perceived by the world as men with power that should be governed. They're not a cut above the rest.
Mm.
They have powers. What's to stop them from taking a city without consent of the task force around the world? They're dangerous if left
Yeah.
unchecked, hence the Sokovia Accords. So that was the first time I sort of thought, I get it. The term vigilante is an interesting term, and that was largely why Batman being considered the Dark Knight, like, you think you're above the law, you're not above the law just because you're a man dressed as a bat that has major detective skills. But then what is it's that this is why it can make such interesting fiction when the world hates people with these extraordinary abilities, even if they want to help them or not. If they don't want to help them, then they're obviously labeled villain or terrorist in some form of media. But you have had so many occasions where someone with genuine passion, interest, and drive who wants to do the right thing with all of these abilities and skills, the world shuts them down. I wonder if that's why you kind of
Yeah.
said yes and no.
I think yeah, granted, I think it's no illusion that there's a quote that sort of runs around where, "Power corrupts absolutely." Um, Homelander's a good example of that, where he's just got so much power. Um,
Interesting that you say that. Yeah.
yeah, like, even in regards to, I mean, granted, the excuses he's had no parents and all that sort of stuff, so his empathy's all out of whack. But even so, he still wants to gain more. So even with his equal to Superman abilities, he still wants to gain more power. He doesn't think he's recognized enough for the stuff he does.
Mm,
Um, and doing so, he gets more corrupt and more corrupt as time goes on. Um, and Billy is his interesting counterpart, where the way he does have a moral compass, but it's so dulled that his decisions and how he deals with how he tries to create a solution are so out there that to someone else, to a regular Joe, it'd be like, "You are nuts." I think a good variation for that would be like someone like the Punisher.
I see.
Sort of on the outside looking in, you could probably see him as a villain. Only until you get inside his head do you kinda go, "I can kinda see where you're coming from."
Right.
Um, but, like, but again, Billy himself over time, so he starts off with no powers at all, and then through the seasons, he then gains power, and it's interesting, we're going to a season now where Billy's also gained power himself, and he's actually going the same way as Homelander by the looks of it. And it's sort of I think it's gonna be Stewie and his team's job to kind of pull him back from the fray before he goes too far. Um, Whether that happens or not, I don't not quite sure. Um, but I think that's where the new season is gonna be going. Um, but I always find interesting where superpowers are kind of that massive. They're almost like a deal breaker in society where um, as soon as someone has something more, everyone kind of gets aggressive about it. Good example for more common media is probably like Fantastic Four. Not Fantastic Four. X-Men. Sorry. Um,
That's a good example.
where these people have sort of they've been born they've been born with these abilities, and society straight away is nah, we don't trust you. Which is, I mean, to be fair, with the world we currently live in now, it makes sense because if we look at someone who's got more than us, it's very easy to become aggressive towards them.
What a brilliant way to bring around your conversation there. Very impressive. I agree. It is superpowers in this in the world of fiction is a plot device used to symbolize power
Mm,
given to someone that will enable them to be above the system, not controlled by the system. Now,
mm,
from what I've learned from the boys, from what you've told me, is a lot of those with power are controlled by the system, but because of this very not constricted, the word I'm looking for is designed to tailor to what the world want them to be, it takes away what makes them human, and it makes them a blank canvas that will snap. Because I mean, they're human. They're human. They're allowed to feel and struggle. Only it sounds like they're not. It sounds like they're not allowed to struggle, and when they do, that's when it is the danger of them turning around. Take the Void, for example, in Marvel
Oh, yeah.
from Thunderbolts. This is, again, we're always going to come back to Marvel eventually, but like we're not going to talk about it too much. He was designed to be the perfect hero, but it was power given to a mentally unstable man. And what happened when he was treated like this ultimate designed perfect hero? All of his insecurities and vulnerabilities that made him human and made him part of the world, made him a real person, it broke him. And it turned him into a indestructible force that began to lash out at everyone and everything. He became the danger that the world would probably want him to be in a way. That's a very weird way of explaining it, which is good. These things make
Well,
you think.
it's probably best the context. Like, so the threat was massive, so it's only convenient that then they want something that's capable of causing that destruction to then defend the world, sort of thing. That's kind of the thing with most crisis scenarios is when the problem's so big, you sort of tend to want someone capable of doing that at that time and then you look back at it and go, oh no, you couldn't you can't done it in this time, or you can't do that in this time because various other things. Yet at the time, the threat seemed relative to the scenario. But it's very we sort of we don't sort of judge as much, but we sort of hide behind things until crisis hits us, and again, oh hang on, actually we could do this corrupt guy right now because he's actually kind of useful because he's gonna defend us, sort of thing.
There is a process to it, which is hence why society lashes out at figureheads like this, say, hypothetically, the superpowers, for example. There's a way to do things, and there is slapping a plaster on a cut and saying you're done. Take, for example, someone from the boys. Well, I mean, take Homelander, for example. He was tasked to save this plane, from what you're telling me. Now, logically, a superhero would save the plane, push up the plane, put it onto the island, and that would be that. Let's hypothetically say he did, and he has to destroy some part of the island that they're going towards, which causes more people to get hurt. You know, where I'm going with this is actions have consequences. Just because a superhero comes up and saves the day doesn't mean that the repercussions of what they do will totally not affect everyone around them. You know, it is in a way war. Superheroes going in and saving the day and destroying the villain is not going to be as simple as Marvel and DC makes it out to be. You know, bad guy here, I defeat them, arrest them, day save. There's going to be a lot of destruction. The superheroes are going to be mentally affected by this,
Mm.
badly mentally affected by this. Their bodies are going to be beaten up. And not everyone is going to look at them and go, they're here to save the day. They'll look at them and go, I can't trust that person
Mm.
because they're not always going to be here to save the day. They could turn around tomorrow and decide to rule the world, and how could we stop them? And they're not bothered about that building over
Mm.
there. They'll get hit into it, it will get destroyed, they'll dust themselves off and get back into battle. You've just destroyed someone's livelihood.
Mm.
Billy up there didn't insure his flat and apartment. You've ruined his life because the council aren't gonna help him.
Yeah.
All because of a stupid, reckless superhero that was fighting a villain when, you know, the military or the police force could be doing it for us. But then obviously you got the argument, but if you left the villain to attack the city, who would have been around to stop them?
I think that's a really good scenario. A pretty good thing to frame off of for that is it actually comes off a recent conversation we had. Is it last year? I think the second season of Solo Leveling. I only bring it up briefly where
Excuse me.
the the threat on the island is so high powered and so the only people that can deal with it are people with powers. The military themselves can't deal with it at all. Like with that kind of hyper social society, even like conventional forces might even be able to deal with that scenario. So again, how would you deal? How would you deal with that? Like, the superhero could destroy someone's flat, but at the same time, if no one else can deal with it, where are you standing now? Like, because they're
There is something that I do want to bring in on this that
Mm.
really identifies that it's invincible.
Yeah.
Now, in particular, Elliot has not seen, so I haven't seen The Boys, and Elliot hasn't seen a lot of Invincible. He's catching up with it. I'll reflect on series 1 because I don't want to spoil it for Elliot for series 3, but a lot of destruction happened in series 1. A lot. And it was because of two powerful men, Omni-Man and Invincible, fighting each other. The 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 amount of carnage and loss of life in that city, it was almost leveled to the ground. A very harrowing scene when Mark tries to save someone and he gets thrown into a building and he's still holding the arm of who he thought he saved, and then he looked down and he's just holding the arm. I mean, if that's not level of realism that is painful, then I don't know what is.
Mm.
He's not going to be able to save everyone, and humans are fragile.
Mm.
If we get thrown through a wall, we
We ain't
we
walking away
ain't
from
we
it.
ain't living. We ain't surviving that. That's gonna be the end of human. So if he gets thrown through a building, he's gonna survive. But the person that he was holding going through the building, they definitely weren't going to survive that.
Mm.
And he was a kid. He was still learning how to do that. And he was getting beaten up by someone leagues above him. This is why the government, even though they were skeptical of Omni-Man, decided to stay on his good side and keep him as sort of like their puppet, because they said that the alternative is we go against him and he rules the world and he destroys us. So let's just keep up with
Ironic.
this little lie now that we don't trust him. We'll keep him at arm's length, and this will give us time to study him and get ready if he decides to turn around. And I mean, he did
Mm.
in the end turn around and wreak havoc. But ever since then, that day, that carefree superhero life that Mark wanted. I've got powers. He even says that at the start of series 1. I've got powers. I'm a superhero. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
invincible. ever since that day, it's not been easy. He's always been associated as Omni-Man's son. You know, that guy that destroyed everything, killed the Guardians of the Globe. Basically, yeah, almost the equivalent of Space Hitler. That's,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
yeah.
he came in and said, like, I'm forcing the rule of the Viltrum Empire on the world.
Mhm.
Submit or die.
Yeah.
That's basically it. It's like, if you join the Empire, hooray! I won't destroy you, and you'll be under our rule. But if you don't join the Empire, I'm going to murder you.
Mm.
And the consequences of that is Mark and his family were permanently stained as relatives. Well, I take Debbie for example. She went to there was a group designated for humans, so people without powers that were associated and relatives of superheroes that passed away. So there was the relative of I can't remember, the speedster at the start, but she was there, if I'm not mistaken. But there were other people there that found out that Debbie was the relative of Omni-Man. And as soon as they found out about that, they turned around and said, "Get out. We don't care about your grief. We don't care that you got betrayed by the man that you love. We don't care. But to us, you're just as evil as him."
Mm.
And they just threw her out. And every time Invincible tried to save the day, just like you're related to Omni-Man, you're a bad person.
Remember, Meetime's on Spotify, so if you like Matt here, who regularly goes out and run, you can listen to us as well.
Right, I'm off.
I think that situation is complicated because you transpose that onto the real world. Talk about Germany for a moment. Hitler did have a wife in his reign, sort of thing. And from what I understand from the from historic records, she was just as keen as Hitler was in regards to what was going on. So it's a really hard differentiation in regards to those two groups. Where in this scenario where she's different to Omni Man, you can kind of understand why this group might be guarded in regards to, you were in bed with this bloke, like, how are how are you not on this side, sort of thing. Um, and I think it's interesting in regards to trying to move out of someone else's shadow. Um, you commit to someone for a various amount of time, and they eventually get a bad name. And so how would you clean your own name in the process from someone else's shadow who's done something so bad? That's the hard one. Do you like what actions are valid to a group who you don't know, to try and clear your name? Um,
It's tough. And again, I can't spoil much about this, but there are ways in the show that Mark tries to run away from this association with Omni-Man and tries to make Invincible its own thing. But even then, it's not just his identity that's put to the test, it's his morals.
mm,
Now, going back to what we said with the boys at the start, there is this ability with these powers to be above the law, but
mm,
not only that, to decide one of the most not controversial, one of the most dangerous things a person in power can decide is if someone lives or dies.
mm,
Invincible, from my perspective as an audience member, takes that takes that whole idea and just makes an entire world out of it.
mm,
It's ridiculous the amount of times that they revisit that mentality the whole time. All these people that can save the world. If they wanted to, they could turn around and they could murder so many people, or there's a villain that comes along and they get murdered. You're still taking a life, by my definition, that is a villainous thing to do. That is an evil thing to do. Now, thankfully, I know there is an episode in series 3 that you have seen where we can talk about this. Take Cecil, who is the head honcho, and he's in charge of looking out over all of these superheroes, giving them orders, this, that, and the other. He encountered 2 villains that were going to detonate this acid bomb and kill so many people. He stopped them, but he didn't stop it from truly affecting everyone. So 17 people still lost their life that day, and he deliberately kept the scar on his face to remind him that he needed to be better, and he failed. He thought that those villains were defeated, that he had defeated them. Then he found out later down the line that they had survived, and the government had reformed them to work for them, to atone for what they had done, make them see the error of their ways, and use them as heroes. His reaction to that, he picked up a gun and put a bullet in their heads. He was just like, you betrayed me. I can't believe you did that. And the head at the time goes, but they're useful. They're useful. Like, if we can reform them, there's those are powers. Instead of being out there, we can use them to save more people. It's not a process that's easy, Cecil, reforming a bad person into a good person, but it's a process that can be done nonetheless. You're not always going to win it, but you can. So that's why when Cecil took the mantle, the first thing he did was when he saw Omni-Man arrive on Earth, his gut and everyone else's gut was, this guy's a bad guy. Cecil went straight away and said, we're going to be on good terms, me and you. I don't care if you're a bad person. You know, just like, let's strike a deal here. And he kept him at arm's distance, you know. Flash forward to the moment he is with, I can't remember the name of the doctor, but you've got your Ani-Men. Is it the Ani-Men? It is. Superhuman soldiers used from the corpses of humans. So you're defiling the dead to make these indestructible, like, superpowered soldiers. And Invincible flipped his lid. It's just like, but that doctor was responsible for the death of my best friend's lover. He murdered him in cold blood, and now, he's back, but he's an android. And he will never truly be the same again because he's gone. And you mean to tell me you've employed him and he's now a quote-unquote good guy? Like, he's murdered so many people, he needs to pay for his crimes. Cecil turns around and goes, he's paying for it by working for me, and he is atoning for his actions. But then again, it's just like, but he still murdered people. But then he turns around and goes, but Mark, you could do the same. You could flip your lid one day. How can I trust you? That clash of ideologies, when I was watching the episode, I was kind of like, oh my God, give me a chance to breathe. I don't know what's right or wrong here. This is actually messing with me.
I think there's a real world example of that, where, again, back to World War II, where the rocket scientists were captured by the American, what was the court? I can't remember what it's called now.
Not too familiar, I'm afraid.
But the Americans basically got the scientists for the German military, and in return for their sort of penance, I guess, they were given new identities and were basically the foundations for laying space rockets. So we wouldn't have the Artemis 2 going up right now. Such a cool rocket, by the way.
Did you watch the launch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was insane.
Yeah. You know, we wouldn't be able to we wouldn't be able to launch those rockets if we hadn't negotiated with these German scientists.
Well, take
I can't remember the name.
Oppenheimer.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
were you referring to
I
Oppenheimer?
think I've so it was definitely in that time period, yeah.
Yeah, and with Einstein, the pair of them created it was nuclear fusion
Mm,
and this atomic power. It's groundbreaking form of energy that can be used to the benefit of humanity to, you know, it's energy, and with energy we can create much more like machinery and sustain life
mm,
much more on a greater level. What was it used for? It was used for weapons and
yeah,
war and the devastation of places. Take Nagasaki,
mm,
for example.
yeah,
Japan in World War II, they weren't exactly the nicest country,
nope.
let's face it. But then an atomic bomb gets dropped on Nagasaki, and it's oh, wow, that's devastation
Mm.
times 100.
Yeah, no, it's interesting the Japanese culture back then, because they still had a Ronin philosophy back then, so they kind of thought it was noble to die. That's their culture. So every invention they ever had,
Extremely honor-based system.
yeah, yeah, like, every invention they had, I think they had like, so they had the kamikaze planes, and they had various other machines where the person in there knew they were going to die as soon as they did whatever the task to fulfill, sort of thing. And their culture at the time was like, "Oh, yeah, if you die, you die honorably," sort of thing. And, the US being sort of challenged with that sort of cultural mind as they're going, "Well, how the heck we deal with these people?" And, you know, I I think I don't know the exact timeline, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but, um, I think oh, yeah, no, so it was after Pearl Harbor. US kinda got pissed at this point. Um, and they were in development themselves of the nuclear bombs,
Mm.
and that was when they didn't really know how to do the culture, and they kind of and they was like, we're going to go test this bomb on Japan, and that's kind of how it ended up, sort of Nagasaki from the other end, sort of thing. But it's a really interesting conversation on, like, you know it could be seen as a bad decision at the time, but we wouldn't have the Japan we have now. And it's now such a respected culture.
That's a
Know,
hard thing
yeah,
to talk about. I see why you mean that. Um, but at the same time, it's devastating.
yeah.
Take again,
I mean,
um, yeah.
the I remember the documentaries after Nagasaki hit, or I mean, of course, but like the documentaries after the fact, like the radiation and various other illnesses that the Japanese had after the
The
bombs.
survivors
Yeah,
died.
yeah, yeah.
The survivors of that blast still died
Mm,
because of the radiation poisoning.
yeah,
Like, again, that is a decision that should not really be made,
yeah.
but at the same time, it was made.
Mm,
This is why the discussion of such of using that superhero label makes us think on a greater level about the real world
mm,
implications. There's this the saying and notion of mutually assured destruction,
yeah.
which prevents people in power pressing the big red button
Mm,
because it is renowned to be the greatest fear that World War III and nuclear war will be the end of humanity.
mm,
Let's face it will be.
mm.
As soon as nuclear war happens, we're in trouble, but you've got mutually assured destruction in that if
Mm.
one goes, they all go. And if they all go, then we're all in trouble. So it is we're caught in a crossfire without pulling the trigger.
Yeah, the thing with nuclear destruction now is, granted, it'll be a massive death toll, um, but the technology we have now and various bunkers, all that sort of stuff that we don't know about. I think there's still a survival rate one way or another, but it's a massive population decrease one way or another.
Can you see why then, from a story perspective, if I bring it back to the story, why society is so angry at people in power?
Mm.
They survive,
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
They have strike a deal and they're buddies with the supers, fine.
Yeah.
We're collateral damage. You're doing this to save us,
Yep.
but when you can't save us, you save yourselves,
Yeah. This is corruption all over
right?
again. Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is like
Kind of think that's kind of where, like, that's true. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and go, "Oh, no, it's not true." That's definitely true.
it is.
Um, that's kind of where I think, that higher calling of that higher moral compass should be sort of front and center.
Yeah.
Um, I think the moral compass it's always questioned. It's always mulled over through stories and all that sort of stuff. But it always feels like whenever in real life we try and hold people to account, it always seems to fall down. Um, because we try and rationalize morality in regards to someone's trauma, and we try and rationalize someone's life beforehand, try and see if we can sort of empathize with them, which is I can understand completely. Um, but there's some decisions that someone can make, and we can still condemn it, whatever their history. The funny thing is Hitler, I think, is the only one we've probably condemned to death, which is probably saying a lot, because he's so easy, because he's not alive now. He had a rough life. He didn't have it easy going up the German ranks. Um, today's world, I don't think would judge Hitler if he was still alive the way that we would today.
It's
Um,
a very bold statement there.
yeah. Um, I think so. The reason I say that is because we have this sort of we have a very empathy is held to a high standard now, and we probably sympathise with Hitler in regards to, oh, he had this bad history going up to Germany, and I'm not quite sure if we give him like a light sentence, rather than we'd kind of end him on the spot sort of thing. I don't think we would do what we would in World War II.
He was a twisted man with a twisted vision, and when he
Yeah,
was given power, he wreaked havoc.
yeah,
So, if you're saying that he would be alive today and we prevented him from getting power,
yeah. I think he should.
he would
Yeah.
be a man that would be either forgotten
Mm.
or not hold accountable for the crimes, the heinous crimes he wanted to commit because he
Yeah,
didn't get an
yeah.
opportunity to. So I get, okay, okay, but then that goes back to what we're saying at the start. It depends on who you give power and
Yes.
what they do with it. Because again, if you give someone like Hitler power, he reveals his true nature, and
Mm.
it was malevolent.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, you
An
can view.
awful man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the funny thing is you can view him as an underdog in history. You can view him as an underdog in regards to he was what, is a failing artist and all that sort of stuff, and, he was then drafted into World War One and then got injured, and then recovered from injury, and then after that was when he kind of started going up the ranks in the German sort of society. But I think the interesting thing is it doesn't seem like he was pulled up on any of it, on anything. Like there's no psych evaluation beforehand. It was just like he got there, and you could view him as an underdog, and I think that's what I think society would do these days.
His rise to power was because of the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Money was at an all-time low,
Mm. Yeah.
and the people in power were losing power. And because of that, they couldn't control, they couldn't maintain, and livelihood and the world and just the world was crashing. So he came in as this savior.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he kind of
And
came in for the working class and stuff.
you ever seen the film Jojo Rabbit?
No, I keep meaning to see it.
It's a heartbreaking film, but good. The main character he's a little German boy,
Mm.
and he was raised in the time of the Reich,
Mm.
and he viewed Hitler as a superhero.
Yeah.
And he has an imaginary friend, and it's Hitler, because he views Hitler as like how I don't know how myself or yourself would view Superman,
Yeah.
you know. And Hitler constantly gave him advice, this, that, and the other. And it wasn't until later in the movie, this isn't really that much of a spoiler,
Well, it's
where
history, this
his
one.
mum harbors a Jew
Oh.
and hides a Jew in the house. And the little boy, obviously sees that and goes, "This is wrong." And his imaginary friend Hitler goes like, "It is wrong. She is wrong. You need to report them." But then he gets to know who the human is,
Yeah.
who this Jewish girl is. And he actually starts developing a crush on her. He starts liking her. And he starts to view, because his mum is a good person, and he starts to view his mum. And then his imaginary friend later in the film starts like going, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he begins to, as the film progresses, view Hitler and the Reich in a different light.
Oh, interesting.
But from a radicalized boy in that country, it makes sense.
Yeah.
He viewed Hitler as a good person
Which
because he's trying to save the world. And then when he realizes that what he's doing is so wrong, that he's like, but wait, what?
Yeah, I think to probably bring it into a real world context again, I think always question the group, because there's always that group thought. Groups like to they kind of have bizarre echo chambers. They seem sort of what's the word? They seem sort of mature around. But what happens in that is, if a new opinion comes in that's sort of outside this echo chamber, it then gets kind of like eaten alive sort of thing. And I think it's more on people now more than ever, with the situation with the world we're currently facing is right now, is be the person who's willing to be eaten alive in that regard. Like say the really interesting opinion and sort of see what responses you get, just to kind of get a different solution for a different problem. Um, be brave a little bit and just sort of say a foreign opinion that may kind of rile a group up, and just see what happens. But then you may find after they've eaten you up for an hour, they'll kind of calm down, and then you finally get to the solution.
Why are you smiling? It sounds like you're saying that from experience.
I have.
Ah!
Yeah.
You do that, don't
Yeah.
I've been there with you when you say something. Like, take for example what you said earlier. It's like if Hitler was alive today, it would be different circumstances. I
Yeah.
was just like, what?
Yeah.
It's just like it's Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 zooming in on the face, like, what?
Yeah.
Now I know that sounds bad, and it did.
Yeah.
But then you give yourself time to explain, and you just like hear me out. But I mean, not every time that's gonna land. They're
Oh,
gonna
no.
say something just very outlandish.
Oh, yeah.
And you just be like, like banana belongs on pizza. I am not. I'm
This
call
will
back,
survive.
call back. Yeah, just like no, I'm not hearing you out. You've debated to me for an hour, and I still don't agree with you. You're
Yeah.
still gonna get people like that. But then with society, you can't always win. You haven't met Powerplex in Invincible yet?
No.
No, he's going to be a good one
Mm.
because no matter what Invincible does, he will never, ever be able to convince everyone that he's a good person. And
Yeah.
Powerplex is an example of that. That something that and then the fallout of, this is a kind of a minor context spoiler, but it doesn't really give too much away. But in the fallout of the Omni-Man and Invincible fight, Powerplex, a relative to Powerplex, is killed.
Mhm.
And since then, he's always been resentful to Invincible. So you'll find out more about that episode when you get to it. But there's not a thing that you'll see in the episode. There's not a thing Invincible could do to persuade him that Invincible is a good person and his intentions are pure and he wants to save the world. There will always be people that look to you and just go, I do not care. You're not fooling me. I don't trust you. You're not a good person. There'll always be people like that.
Yeah, this is what I found in trying to be sort of good and moral. Like, you won't please everybody. And to try and do so is kind of a losing fight. So you kind of you still, it's really hard to explain because you want to test your opinions. You want to see if they are correct. But at the same time, you can be easily judged as having the outside opinion as that, no, I don't like you. And to be honest, I've got comfortable with that fact. I say again, the people I've got around me now, I could say outlandish opinion and they'd be fine. But there's times where you could say it and you will just be judged for it, and it's like, well, hang on, I'm just throwing a different opinion out there. I'm just throwing a different idea. Just see what comes back. Test the waters, as you'd say. I think what the Boys and Invincible kind of does is it kind of asks you to be brave a little bit in regards to all these heroes and villains and all that. They've all got moral they're all morally corrupted. So your best answer in navigating that world is just asking questions, or like testing the waters to try and make sure that the decision at the end of it is correct.
You're either a good man or you're a man that saves the world.
Yes.
That's what Cecil said in
Yeah.
Invincible.
It was a really good quote, and I was like,
Or you're a
oh,
good
this is great.
person and you'll be a person that saves the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to get your hands dirty to keep others clean.
Yeah. And it's a really difficult...
It's a Dark Knight Rises reference.
Yeah. It's a really difficult moral rope to skip, because you are going to go into some battles and go like, I've put a foot wrong here. I need to try and recover. But there's other times where they're going, okay, I've actually done all right in asking this question because this group now seems to be thinking a different way. But yeah, it's an interesting
There's
thing.
that level of atonement, and I think this will transition very well into episode 33. Because there's a lot more to be said on this, and we will save that for next episode. And I want to talk about other movies and other media in relation to this, because you're right. It is atonement on that level, or also being yourself in a big, brave world trying to make a difference, but you're not going to make a difference to everyone. And as long as you are succeeding in some capacity and you're not losing yourself along the way, then that is, incorruptible behavior.
Yeah.
But if you surrender to the system and you surrender to what people want you to be, you will be corrupted. That's deep.
Yeah, that's good.
So we'll finish on that. I knew you'd like that. We'll finish on that. So thank you very much for tuning in to episode 32 of Me Time. Same time next week on YouTube and Spotify, the continuation of Society vs. Supers with episode 33. And until then, take care, look after yourself, and there's always time for Me Time.
See you soon. Have a good week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, guys. Goodbye. Yeah. Oh.